Hi and welcome again, and I'm now going to show you how to do measurements. Okay, welcome. We'll be dealing with measurements now, and then the things that we'll be dealing with is perimeter, area, surface area, and volume. Now when it comes to perimeter refers to the distance around the object. It means we'll be calculating this area, adding with this area, with this, add again this line segments, then add again this line segment. So the distance around that entire area. Okay, so the distance here, we have your rectangle. So when we're dealing with perimeter, we'll actually be adding. So we'll be having a 4 meter plus 2 meter plus 2 meter and plus 4 meter. So perimeter is actually calculating the distance around an object. Okay, so the area actually refers to the space that an object can cover. Actually, for example, in this rectangle, we are looking at this space. You see this space. Okay, that is the area. Now if you have a pizza box like this, and then you have a pizza within, and you're required to calculate the area of the pizza. So the pizza would be in a circle form, so it means you'll be only calculating this space, the space that the pizza covers inside the box. Okay, and then we also have what we call the surface area. The surface area is actually calculated for 3D objects, as you've seen in the previous lesson. So in order to calculate for surface area, you actually have to open it up, open the box up and make it a net diagram. So you'll be calculating for this entire space that this box can cover. Okay, just like in area there, we are only calculating one face, right? So in surface area, we are calculating for all the faces. Okay, then we also have what we call volume. Volume refers to the content that this box can cover or can accommodate within it. Okay, so this would be your box of your cereals, your cornflakes. So the amount of cornflakes it can carry, it would be referred to as volume. Okay, so now we'll be doing the actual calculations of perimeter, area, surface area, and the volume. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, since we are now going to do the calculations, let's look at our square there. Your square has 4 equal sides, and then one side would be 5 meters, and it means all the sides would be 5 meters. And the formula, you'll be adding all these sides, so the P would be L plus L plus L plus L, and if you add all the L's together, you end up having your 4L. Therefore your formula will be P equals to 4L. Okay, then if your formula is P equals to 4L, then we go on and we substitute where there is our L, we put in our 5 meters, then our answer becomes 20 meters. Then your area, your area would also be actually length times width, but in this case they are all equal. Hence, instead of writing the width there, I'll put in another L, and then your L times L would give you the L squared. Hence that becomes our formula. Then we would have your 5 meters, then it will be a squared. Okay, then you also have your volume. Now in order to get your volume, you get your volume from your what we call a 3-dimensional shape. Therefore, if this now becomes my 3D object, I have my 5 here, I have my 5 here, it means I also have my 5 here. That's my length and my width and my height. Therefore here I would have my 5 meter multiplied by my 5 meter multiplied by my 5 meter. Okay, then you have your 5, 10, 15. No, it will be 5 times 5, which is 25. Then you'd have your 25 times 5. That would give you your 125. You have your meter times meter times meter. You have your meter cubed. Now, another thing I forgot to explain concerning the units. Your perimeter would be meters. Your area would be meters squared. Your volume would be in meter cubed. So what actually happening in perimeter, we actually adding. Therefore, the unit will remain in its singular form. If it's centimeter, it is to the power 1. If it's meters, it is to the power 1. And if it is millimeters, it is to the power 1. Therefore, you get centimeter, meter, and millimeter. Then in your area, when you're calculating for area, your area will always be to the power 2, because you are multiplying 2 dimensions. Okay, you're multiplying your length and your breadth. So since you are multiplying 2 dimensions, if it is meters, it will be meter squared. If it is millimeters, it will be millimeter squared. If it is centimeters, it will be centimeter squared. It is always to the power 2 because you are multiplying 2 dimensions. Then we come to your volume. Your volume will always be to the power 3 because you are multiplying 3 dimensions. Okay, so if it was a millimeter, it would be millimeter cubed. If it was meters, meter cubed. If it was centimeters, it will be centimeter cubed, or cubic liters, depending on what units have been given. Since we are done with a square, now let us look at the rectangle. In our rectangle, you have your given sides, your 3 meter and your 4 meters, right? It's your length and your width. Now, you'll be aware that your perimeter means you have to add this length plus this length plus this width plus this width. Okay, hence your formula for perimeter, you'll have your P, which equals to the 2 length plus the 2 widths, right? So the length plus length, you get your 2L, and then your width plus the width, it gets your 2 width. Okay, therefore your formula would actually be 2L plus 2W there. Okay, so you actually go and substitute. This would be 2 times your L there, which is your 4 meters, plus your 2 times your width there, which is 3 meters. Therefore, your final answer will be 2 times 4, which is 8, plus 2 times 3, which is 14 meters. You remember the unit would be singular, which means to the power 1. Okay, so if we are now working the area, for area, which you have your length times breadth, your length would be your 4 meters multiplied by your width, which is your 3 meters. Okay, then you'd have your 4 times 3, which is 12, and have your meter times meter, which is m squared, right, which is meter squared. Then you also have what we call the surface area. Like I've explained, the surface area will actually require a 3-dimensional object. You actually be calculating for a total surface area. So this box would now happen to be your 3-dimensional shape. Okay, it becomes a 3-dimensional shape in order for you to calculate for the surface area and for the volume. Okay, now in order to calculate for the surface area, you must open this up and make it a net like this. Remember, so this is now our net, but you notice they actually give you a weird formula to calculate for the surface area, but you'll realize we have about 1, 2, 3, 4 rectangles and 2 squares there. Therefore, your formula could actually be your 2 times your length times breadth of the squares, and you add to your, how many, 1 2 3 4, your 4 times your length times breadth of your rectangle. And then if you work this up and simplify it, then you actually get your formula for surface area, which I'm not going to calculate right now. Then you go to your volume. Your volume is always a third dimension, okay, to the area. It's a third dimension to the area. Your area would have your length times width. Then you add the third dimension, which is height. Then it becomes a formula for volume, okay? Everywhere, when you take your area and you add the third dimension, which is your height, you actually end up getting a volume, okay? So in this case, you realize that in our diagram, this would represent our h, this would represent our length, then this would represent our width, okay? This is our, okay? So let's go and substitute into it. Therefore, my length would be my 4 meters, my width would be my 2 meters, and then my height would be my 3 meters. Therefore, I get 4 times 2, which is 8. Then I get 8 times 3, which is 24. I have my 24, then I have my meter multiplied by meter multiplied by meter, then I become meter, I get meter cubed. It is always to the power 3. Okay, now we look at a triangle. Now this is a interesting one, okay? In our triangle, you'd have your triangle there, you have your base, and your height will always be perpendicular, okay? So my height would come from here. None of these sides would be my height, okay? And when it comes to triangles, we have about 4 types of triangles. First triangle, you'd have 3 equal sides. This is referred to the equilateral triangle. Let me not write it. This refers to this is your equilateral triangle because all sides are equal. Then you have this triangle which does not have any equal sides, and it becomes your scalene, okay? And then you have this triangle which has 2 equal sides, and that becomes your isosceles triangle. And then you have this triangle which is called your right angle triangle, okay? So your right angle triangle is what we'll be dealing with in your Pythagoras. Now, another thing to mention concerning your right angle triangle is that the line that is going up, which is perpendicular to the horizontal line, will always become your h if you were to calculate for the area. This side that is perpendicular to the horizontal line, that will become your h. So coming back here, we've been given this triangle. It has 3 equal sides, which is now an equilateral triangle, okay? So our equilateral triangle, when we're calculating for perimeter, we would add 3 sides, 1, 2, and 3, right? But because it is equilateral, it means all sides are the same. If this side is 4, it means this side will be 4, this side will be 4. Therefore, I'll be having my 4m plus 4m plus 4m, which totals to 4, 8, 12, which is 12 meters, okay? Our units will always be singing. Then we look at the area. The formula of the area would be A equals to half base times height. But if you take this and simplify it further, your half base times height, we have your half multiplied by B over H multiplied by H over 1. You end up having A equals to B times H. Therefore, this formula and this formula is one and the same thing, just as this one has been simplified for you, okay? Now our B there, which represent the base, would be 4 meters, our height would be 3 meters. Then we'd come here and substitute, okay? Then we would have our B, which is 4 meters, multiplied by our H, which is 3 meters, all divided by 2. Okay, so you'd have your 4 times 3, which is your 12 meters squared divided by 2. Then my final answer would then be 6 meters squared. Okay, now we look at the surface area. Again, on the surface area, they'll also give you another complicated formula. Okay, but when you actually work it out, you'd have to have it in a 3-dimensional form. This would be a triangle, then, and remember your base would be your 4 meter, and your height will be somewhere here, which is 3 meters. Okay, now in order to get it right, you realize that you have about 2 triangles and 3 rectangles. So without working with the formula that they would have given you, you realize calculate for 2 areas of the triangles and 3 areas of your rectangles. You're actually having 2 multiplied by half base times height, which are through 2 triangles. You add with your 3 rectangles there, which will be 3 times length times breadth right there. Okay, now they'll also give you a formula with a capital letter H. Now the capital letter H would represent this long side here. Okay, but without any complicated area, you can figure it out by doing a net diagram and manipulating your way around it. And also you have your volume. Your volume would be a half base times height multiplied by the capital letter H. Like I said, you take your area, and then this is your area. You add your 3rd dimension to it. So in this case, our 3rd dimension would be the capital letter H, which is indicated in this diagram. Then you get your volume. Okay, so this is another troublesome one. A circle. In order to understand this, let me first explain. This would be your circle. Now the outer part of the circle, as you can see right there, is referred to as the circumference. Now the line that starts from the outside of the circle passes through the center to the outside of the circle. This line is referred to as the diameter. Then again, there is another line that starts from the center of the circle to the outside of the circle. That line is referred to as the radius. Okay, another thing for you to know when you are dealing with circles is this symbol, the pi. Okay, you can find this symbol on your calculator, but we would encourage that you use your pi as 3,142, which actually pi is actually 22,7. You divide this, you get 3,142. So in your substitutions in your calculations, please substitute your pi as 3,142. That is a recommendation. Okay, now concerning the issue of the diameter, if your diameter is 4, then your R would be what? Okay, now you go back here, you look at your diameter. Your diameter is made up of 2 equal lines, which are actually radiuses. Okay, or radii. If I remove this line, okay, then this becomes my radii, becomes like this. Okay, this becomes my radius. Okay, therefore a diameter is made up of 2 equal radii. Okay, so if a diameter is 4, then my radii would be 2. I would have to divide this by 2 because it is made up of 2 equal parts. So if my R is 6, notice that if my R is 6, then my diameter would become 12. Okay, you'd have to multiply that by 2. So if my diameter is 5, then my radius would be 2,5. I would have to divide it by 2. So if my diameter is 10, then my R would be 5. Okay, that is the information you need to know regarding the diameter and the radius, because most of your questions may be given in diameters, but you'll be required to substitute the radius. Okay, so let us do the calculations. I have my circle here with my R equals to 4 meters. Then I'm expected to calculate for the perimeter. Okay, so the formula for perimeter is 2 pi r. It will actually be given. If I had time, I'd show you how it is constructed from, but your formula for perimeter is 2 pi r. Then I'd have my 2 here. I'm gonna substitute my pi, which is always 3,142, multiplied by my r. My r is 4 meters, which is 4 meters. As you can see, I only have 1 unit, therefore my answer will also be in that unit. Okay, so I'd have my 2 multiplied by 3,142 multiplied by 4, then I'd get my 25 meters. Okay, that is my perimeter. Then if I were to calculate for area, my area would be A equals to pi r squared, which is the formula. So my pi would be 3,142 multiplied by my r, which is 4 meters squared. You notice that the 4 meters is squared. So if all this is squared, so both the number and the unit are squared, so it actually changes the unit. This would be m squared. My answer would be in m squared, okay, because it's area anyway. And then I'd have my 4 squared, which would give me a 16 multiplied by 3,142. Then I'd actually get my 50 meters squared. So that is my area. Okay, then you also have your surface area. They will always give you a formula for this one. Okay, it will also be a complicated formula, but in order to work that out, remember that in order to do this, you must have a 3-dimensional object. Okay, so this is my 3-dimensional object. In order to get my surface area, I'd actually have to convert it into a net diagram, right? I'm gonna make it a net diagram so you realize that I have my 2 circles and my 1 rectangle. Okay, without complications. If somehow they do not give you a formula in your examination question paper, you realize that you have 2 circles. So this would be a 2 circles into the area for the circle, that would be pi r squared. Then you have to add your rectangle, which would be your length times breadth. It's only 1, right? Which is your length times breadth. But you'd have your length or your breadth. Your length would actually be the distance around 1 circle. Okay, then I'm not gonna calculate this one. I'm gonna show you the volume. Okay, so the volume, you actually, like I've explained, you take your area, you add the 3rd dimension to it. There's my area. I add the 3rd dimension, which is h. Then I get my volume, which is pi r squared h. Remember, this remains as 3,142 multiplied by my r, which is 4 meter squared, multiplied by my h. Okay, now my h in this case would be my 5 meters. So I come back here, I substitute my 5 meters. Now you realize my unit. I have 5 meters squared. I'm gonna multiply by another meter here. Okay, therefore it becomes meter cubed. Okay, then I have my 4 squared, which is 16 times 5 times 3,142, which actually does give me 251 meter cubed. Okay, so that was my volume. So at any given any shape, you can calculate for perimeter, area, surface area, and your volume. Okay, so those were the calculations for the basic shapes of mathematical measurements.